Welcome to Divyankura, the Knowledge Bureau. In today's video, we will discuss about MEG-4 Solved Assignment of 2024 to 2025. This assignment is for those who got enrolled in July 2024 session and January 2025 session. Question 1. What are the characteristics of human language? Discuss each in detail. Marks 20. Answer. Introduction. It is generally believed that human beings are the sole species capable of developing language thanks to their intelligence and appropriate structure of the vocal tracts. However, it is clear that animals are also capable of communication in their own way. Yet, there are certain apparent differences in human and animal ways of conveying messages. The features that make human language so different are discussed below. Next point, what is language? Before moving further, we should have a clear understanding of the meaning of language. According to Hockett, language is the most valuable single possession of the human race. In general, language is a system of conventional spoken, manual, or written symbols by means of which human beings, as members of a social group and participants in its culture, express themselves. The functions of language include communication, the expression of identity, play, imaginative expression, and emotional release. Next point, the characteristics of human language. Some of the linguists have come up with a set of features specific to human language that make them unique from other means of communication used by other species, especially animals. These characteristics are discussed below. 1. Arbitrariness. Except in the case of onomatopoeic words or expressions, there is no logical relationship between the signal and the message. The symbols used by human beings are arbitrary. There is no logical relationship between the word and the thing it symbolizes. Example, in Hindi language, there is more than one word to denote one particular thing. E.g., to denote the English word water, we can say either pani or jal. 2. Creativity. Unlike animals, human beings can talk about anything they like. They can produce and understand utterances which they have never produced or heard before. It is also not necessary that the same situation would make them utter the same thing each time. 3. Displacement. The phenomena where human beings can communicate about things that are absent as easily as about the things that are present is known as displacement. Human beings can cope with any subject, and it does not matter how far away the topic of conversation is in time and space. 4. Duality or double articulation. Human language is organized into two levels or layers, i.e., a layer of individual sounds which combine with each other to form the second layer of bigger units like words. This kind of organization into two layers is called duality or double articulation. In every human language, there is a set of 30 to 40 basic sounds which are called phonemes. These phonemes are generally meaningless in isolation. These basic sounds or phonemes become meaningful only when they combine with each other in accordance with the rules of a language. 5. Patterning. One of the important characteristics of human language is patterning. Human language has well-defined internal patterns. There are firm restrictions on which elements can occur together and in which order. Example, the sounds O, P, T, S in English. These sounds can only be arranged in the following 6 ways: spot, stop, pot, pots, top, and tops. Other possibilities like TSOP, PDOS, OPST are not possible because the rules of English do not allow this. 6. Structure dependence. Human beings instinctively understand the patterned nature of language and manipulated structured chunks of language, e.g., they understand that a group of words can be at times the structural equivalent of one word. Example, the boy who proposed to me gave me a bouquet of flowers. This chunk can be rearranged according to the rules of the language. A bouquet of flowers was given to me by the boy who proposed to me. 7. Use of sound signals. The use of sound signals is perhaps the most obvious characteristics of human language. But this feature is not all important because human beings can transfer language to visual symbols, as in the case of Braille. Conclusion: human language has many more characteristics besides the ones discussed above. We probably take the ability to use language for granted. But even the imagination of its absence in our everyday life can be frightening. In fact, language is fundamental to what it means to be human. Question 2. Write short notes on the following. A. Backformation. Marks 10. Answer. Backformation is the process of word formation. In etymology, backformation is the process or result of creating a new word via inflection, typically by removing or substituting actual or supposed affixes from a lexical item in a way that expands the number of lexemes associated with the corresponding root word. The resulting is called a backformation. Next point, origin. The term backformation is coined by James Murray in 1889. Oxford English Dictionary Online preserves its first use of backformation from 1889 in the definition of to burgle from burglar. Backformation may be particularly common in English given that many English words are borrowed from Latin, French, and Greek, which together provide English a larger range of common affixes. Examples: 1. The probable etymology of beggar is that it comes from the French beghurt, the name of a mendicant order. Thus, the word big is a backformation and a very early one. 2. Pedal is a backformation from peddler. Similarly, burgle is a backformation from burglar. 3. In the same way, diagnose is a backformation from diagnosis and rov from rover. 4. There are many jocular, slangy, and colloquial words that are actually products of backformation. Gel from jelly, orate from oration, peeve from peevish. 5. New words are formed by subtracting ing from the back, e.g., grovel from groveling, dark from darkling, side from sidling, etc. B. Compounding. Marks 10. Answer. Compounding composition or nominal composition is the process of word formation that creates compound lexemes. Compounding occurs when two or more existing words or signs are joined to make a longer word or sign. This process has flourished at every period of the English language. Type. A compound is a unit composed of more than one stem forming words or signs. 1. If the joining of the words or signs is orthographically represented with a hyphen, then result is a hyphenated compound, e.g., must have hunter-gathered. 2. If the words or signs joined without an intervening space, it is called a close compound, e.g., footpath, blackboard. 3. If the words or signs joined with a space, then the result, at least in English, may be called an open compound, e.g., school bus, high school. Examples: almost any combination of the parts of speech may be employed in this process of compounding, though some combinations are far more common than others. Some are unusual and some have not been favored equally in every period. Among the most common are: 1. Noun with noun. Old English words whaleway means whaleway, sea. Brioche crior means breast care, anxiety. Seoul cliff means sea cliff. In modern English, we have railroad, housetop, weekend, woodshed, etc. 2. Noun with adjective. Old English ice-salt mean ice cold. Hyort-seok mean heart-sick, and more recently, coal-black, airtight, footsore, etc. 3. Noun with verb. Kneel hall, hand-pick, side-swipe, and so on. 4. Noun with adverb. Hands-off, head-on, hindsight to, etc. 5. Adjective with noun. Blackberry, hothouse, sweetmeat, big shot, and so on. 6. Adverb with noun. Upshot, overhead, downfall, afterthought, underdog, etc. 7. Adverb with adjective. Overdue, evergreen, underripe, etc. 8. Adverb with verb. Overthrow, understep, offset, bypass, etc. 9. Verb with adverb. Dug out, walk over, tie up, kick off, etc. 10. Verb with noun. Crybaby, playboy, starboard, from Old English words meaning steering side. 11. Adjective with verb. Shortcut, high flown, etc. Question 3. Discuss the significance and types of motivation in the context of second language learning. Marks 20. Introduction. In the recent period of education concerning language learning, a momentous transfer and change has occurred in the sense that an enormous focus has gone towards learner and learning rather than teacher and teaching. One of the main and important factors in an autonomous approach in language learning is the learner's motivation. What is second language learning or acquisition? SLA. Second language acquisition, sometimes called second language learning, otherwise referred to as L2, language 2, acquisition, is the process by which people learn a second language. Second language refers to a language an individual learns that is not his or her mother tongue, but is of use in the area of the individual. It is not the same as a foreign language, which is a language learned that is not generally spoken in the individual's area. Next point, what is motivation? The term motivation in the second language learning context is seen according to Gardner 1985 as referring to the extent to which the individual works or strives to learn the language because of a desire to do so and the satisfaction experienced in this activity. The individual may wish to learn the second language and may enjoy doing it only when the desire to learn the second language and favorable attitude towards it are linked with the effort or drive to achieve it. When that happens, we can say that the learner is motivated. Next point, significance of motivation. Motivation is considered to be one of the most important factors in second language learning, L2, and is often used to explain a learner's success or failure. It provides the primary impetus to initiate learning, the L2, and later the driving force to sustain the long and tedious learning process. Indeed, all the other factors involved in L2 acquisition presuppose motivation to some extent. Motivation determines the extent of active personal involvement in L2 learning. Research shows that motivation directly influences how often students use L2 learning strategies, how much students interact with native speakers, and how long they preserve and maintain L2 skills after language study is over. Conversely, without sufficient motivation, even individuals with the most remarkable abilities cannot accomplish long-term goals, and neither are appropriate curricula and good teaching enough on their own to ensure students' achievement. Next point, types of motivation. A bunch of researchers like Gardner, Lambert, Elish, Ryan, and Deci have done pioneering work to explore the nature of motivation specific to language study. There are several types of motivation that can affect second language learning. 1. Integrative and instrumental motivation. According to Gardner and Lambert 1972, there are two types of motivation, integrative and instrumental. The integrative motivation means learning the language with the intention of participating in the culture of its people, and instrumental motivation suggests and implies that a learner learns the language in support of a purpose relating to occupation or further useful motive. These two types of motivation can affect and control the procedure and outcome of learning. Cook 2000 further believes that the integrative and instrumental motivation suggested by Gardner and Lambert is useful and effective factor for second language. Gardner 1985 and Elish 1994 also introduced the mentioned types of motivation. The former occurs when the student likes to join or be a member of the certain crowd and the culture. The latter occurs when the learner anticipates numerous benefits that he proposes to have while learning some particular language. Elish, 1994, believes that the best and perfect motivation is the integrative motivation. 2. Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Ryan and Deci, 2000, introduced another types of motivation as self-determination theory. They say that self-determination theory categorizes and tells apart diverse types of motivation in accordance with the different rationales, causes, or targets which strengthen a deed or an achievement. In proportion to this theory, the most fundamental difference is between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the eagerness and interest to do and take part in some certain activities because an individual feels that they are attractive and pleasant. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation is the propensity to take part in activities because of the reasons which do not link to the activity. These reasons can be the anticipation of reward or punishment, like being successful in the exam or getting a good mark. Conclusion. The success in second language learning depends on many factors. Motivation is the most important of them and significant in achieving it. Although motivation can be divided into four different types as mentioned above, but many researchers hold only two types as significant in motivation, which is integrative and instrumental motivation. Question 4. Word is a minimum free form. Elaborate. Marks 20. Introduction. Linguistic is the scientific study of language, and since word is one of the basic units of language, a scientific definition of word is a prerequisite for this science. Several attempts have been made to define word in linguistics. The most well known of these definitions is the one given by Leonard Bloomfield, who defined the word as a minimum free form. The two crucial words here are free and minimum. Next point, understanding Bloomfield's definition. Free means those which can occur alone as whole utterances. For example, young, old, right, wrong, etc. are free forms since they can occur as whole utterances. Minimum, of course, means the smallest or those which cannot be broken down further into smaller parts. None of the forms cited above can be broken down into smaller parts. Thus, they meet both conditions set out by Bloomfield and are words by his definition. Some linguists argue that freedom in Bloomfield's definition means 1. Positional mobility. Here, positional mobility refers to the fact that the word is the smallest unit which can be moved around in the sentence. For example, the form surely has been moved position in the following sentences. Surely he does not deny that. He surely does not deny that. He does not deny that surely. Here, sure and ly cannot move around by itself but surely can. Sometimes longer form can be moved around, e.g., they were all keen to see the young Indian from Chicago. The young Indian from Chicago they were all keen to see. Here, the young Indian from Chicago shows the same kind of positional mobility as does surely in the earlier example. But the young Indian from Chicago is not a minimum form as it contains smaller forms capable of occurring independently. In other words, this form is a free form, but it consists of more free forms and is therefore not a minimum form. Therefore, it does not qualify as a word. Such forms are actually called phrases. 2. Stability. Stability refers to the internal cohesion of the word. A word can also be broken down into smaller elements, but the order of these elements in a word is strictly fixed and cannot be changed. In other words, while a word has positional mobility, its elements do not. To solve the problems occurred by Bloomfield's definition, linguists set up the category of morpheme. Next point, what is morpheme? Morphemes are defined as the smallest elements that have meaning or that perform a grammatical function. A morpheme can be a whole word, a word part, or a single letter. Morphemes can be of one syllable or even a single letter. In the case of adding s to indicate plural or third person singular verb. Words like nation, old, young, nice, play, run, etc. are monomorphemic, whereas words like national, older, younger, nicest, played, running, etc. are composed of two morphemes each. Morphemes are of two kinds. 1. Free morpheme. Free morphemes can exist independently with a meaning, e.g., take, horse, back, door, etc. Free morphemes further divide into two categories. A. Lexical morpheme. A lexical morpheme is a free morpheme or a word that can stand on its own to convey meaning without the help of other morphemes. Lexical morphemes are typically nouns and verbs that are not modified by affixes. They are called open class of words because new lexical morphemes are created every now and then, e.g., girl, sad, draw, cat, etc. B. Functional morphemes. A functional morpheme is a word part that modifies the meaning of another word or sentence rather than providing the main meaning. Functional morphemes help to make meaning clearer and solidify grammar and function. Functional morphemes are typically prepositions, conjunctions, pronoun, etc. that serve functional or additional role in conveying a message. They are often changed or added. Hence, they are called closed class of words, e.g., and, to, but, at, etc. 2. Bound morpheme. Bound morphemes only serve a grammatical function. They do not have a meaning of their own. They only occur as attaches to free morphemes. The affixes, prefixes, and suffixes that form the bound morphemes are divided into two parts. A. Inflectional morpheme. An inflectional morpheme is a suffix that added to a word to assign a particular grammatical property to that word, such as its number, mood, tense, or possession. However, an inflectional morpheme can never change the grammatical category of a word. An inflectional morpheme can be added to a verb, noun, adjective, or an adverb. For example, adding ed to the verb dance creates the past tense of the verb danced. B. Derivational morpheme. When an affix adds to a word in order to create a new word or a new form of a word is called derivational morpheme. A derivational morpheme can either change the meaning or the grammatical category of the word. For example, pure turns to impure, help turns to helper, logic turns to logical, etc. Conclusion. Bloomfield's definition of the word as a minimum free form addresses only the formal properties of the word. It makes no reference to meaning. It can apply only to the phonological word, therefore limited in use. Question 5. Write a critical note on Indianness in Indian English. Give relevant examples. Marks 20. In India, English is used as a medium of communication by more than 80 million people, an estimate which far surpasses the speakers of English even in Great Britain. That too in a country where there are 19 other national languages along with numerous dialects ranging over the 1,000 mark. It can be said that Indianness is about embedding values and history in a literary work that has originated, evolved, and transformed on the Indian soil. Next point, what is Indian English? In simple words, Indian English is a group of dialects spoken in India and by the Indian diaspora. It is a co-official language of India and is used in many areas, including education, law, media, and business. Indian English is also used in social interactions and in pan-Indian literature. Before the dissolution of the British Empire on the Indian subcontinent, the term Indian English broadly referred to South Asian English, also known as British Indian English. Next point, Indianness in Indian English. Some selected features of Indianness in Indian English are discussed below. 1. Decline of bilingualism. In order to define a standard Indian English user, an arbitrary scale termed the decline of bilingualism is used to rank bilinguals in terms of their proficiency in English. The decline of bilingualism is further divided into three measuring points. These are A. The 0 point. It is the bottom point on the axis. However, this is not the end point at the bottom. In India, it is not rare to find people with some competence in English, and yet, in their overall faculty to use the language, they may rank below the 0 point. B. The central point. A bilingual who has adequate competence in one or more registers of Indian English may rank round the central point. This includes a large number of those Indian civil servants and teachers who learn English as their major subject of study and are able to make use of the language efficiency in those restricted fields in which the English language is used in India. C. The ambilingual point. When a standard or educated Indian English bilingual is intelligible not only to other Indians in different parts of the subcontinent, but ideally speaking to the educated native speakers of English, that can be termed as ambilingual. Ambilingualism is a rare, if not impossible, phenomenon. 2. Derivations in Indian English. In India, an idiom of English has developed which is Indian in the sense that there are formal and contextual exponents of Indianness in writing, and defining context of such idiom is the Indian setting. Indian derivations can be better understood when the linguistic and cultural setting of India is taken into consideration. 3. The sources of Indianisms. The linguistic factors which generally determine the Indianness of Indian English are not different from those in any other language contact situation. In such a situation, one mainly concerned with the process of transfer. In linguistic, literature transfer is essentially used in the sense of interference at any linguistic level. These levels of transfers are A. Transfer of context. This involves transfer of those cultural patterns which are absent or different in those cultures where English is used as the mother tongue. B. Transfer of L1 meaning to L2 items. This may either be restricted to the lexical level or it may be involved transfer of higher units of description. C. Transfer of form context component. This is essentially determined by those contextual units which are typically Indian and which are not normally used in the L2 varieties of the English language. Conclusion. Any literary production by an Indian in English is Indian English literature, and by default it has the element of Indianness. However, merely being a work by an Indian does not add serious and apparent elements that might be classified as Indianness, which may be serious. The elements that embed or highlight Indian values, the Indian way of life, Indian religious colors, Indian history, and even various Indian problems should ideally be called Indianness in Indian English. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for further videos.